Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's special meeting, 6:30, August 16th, WPCA special meeting, in person and online. Are there any proposed changes to the agenda that's been posted? Seeing none, we will proceed with the agenda that's been posted. First item in front of us under new business is to hear, consider, discuss, and act on the proposed sewer rates for 2023 to 2024 fiscal year. I think it's worthwhile to note, because I'm often confused by this. We discuss and approve rate increases that get sent out at the middle part of September, June, October, for our budget year, which then begins next July 1st. All right with that? Joe?
I'm not sure.
Okay. So that's...
I mean, we are going to generate revenue for this budget that was just approved July 1, 2023, which is the fiscal 24 budget. That I will say.
Okay.
If that's what you said, I agree with you.
Okay. So that's where we are. We have a handout that Joe has put together for us that gives us some scenarios. John, why don't you tell us what's going on with respect to, we're pretty well versed in what it's costing to fix things that break. And it seems to, the sweet spot seems to be around $250,000. Plus or minus. Some are 100, some are 500, and we know that more items are going to break. We just don't know what. But
Correct.
talk to us about scheduled increases in salary, benefits, and inputs to the processes that take place at the plant.
Well, the Public Works just ratified their contract for that. It was a contingency that covered that. But because we're 20 plus years old on most everything, we're due for breakdowns. As much as maintenance we do, I think with the upcoming equipment audit that's done at the plant, that hopefully we'll have some numbers for in the next couple of weeks. We'll have a priority list starting at the most dire to the least amount. But the most dire stuff, you're talking at least $2-3 million, and so on and so forth. And that's just going to continue to roll on year after year after year. Not to mention 7 pump stations that need to be done. We just did one pump station 2 years ago. It started at 2 and it ended at 6 million.
So there's kind of a differentiation between capital projects that we will kind of approve as they come up and ordinary operating expenses,
Correct.
which we're trying to estimate. I should mention also that the process for this is to gain a consensus amongst the commission tonight on what the rate increase should be. We then post that, hopefully tomorrow, and then wait a period of time, which I believe is 10 days. I don't know if that's 10 calendar days or 10 business days, at which time we get to meet again and ratify that. It'll be like our 16th meeting this year. And then get that over to the tax department to interface with our vendor to create the bills that go out. So that's the process that's in front of us tonight. So that's what we're looking to gain a consensus on what that rate increase may be. Any questions? More questions for John? No worries. All right, so I'll go first and share my thoughts that even at an 8.2% increase, that gives us an incremental $475,000, which maybe fixes one broken part, one broken machine going forward.
That's surplus over the operating budget?
Yes, that would be surplus over the operating budget. So whatever John has in the operating budget, which was $365,000, as far as capital, that's covered.
Right.
This is over and above that, these additional numbers.
Yeah.
Maybe I should give a little explanation.
That'd be very helpful.
Okay, so basically what was done in the past and what I assume we're gonna continue to do, despite a change in process, we have budgeted, it's been an approved budget by the Board of Finance, by all three town bodies, including the Board of Finance. And our nut to cover for tonight's meeting for the rates is the account 43001, which is the current sewer use rates. And this year's budget, FY '24 budget, is $7.668 million. $7.668 million is what the rate we put in place needs to cover. Anything above that we want to put in place, as Mark said, is additional. And you'll see, I put some scenarios out on this piece of paper that shows if we make it $525, as Mark pointed out, that's $475,000 above what the board's approved for this line on the budget. We have other lines on the budget, the I&Is that we'll talk about. This year, we're getting interest on our money based on the Board of Finance changing the policy that the numbers are bigger this year, so it makes sense to look for that interest. That when it was 1%, it wasn't that big a number. Now that we have $15 million in the account and it's close to 4%, I'll defer to Jared. That's the number we were talking about when we were talking with the Board of Finance. It becomes real money at this point. So what we have to keep in mind is we absolutely need to cover the $7,669,000. I rounded it.
Yeah.
Okay? So if you look at the scenarios, 495 does cover it, just barely.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the numbers cover it with a little cushion. Okay?
Right.
So that's what you have in front of you.
Yeah, the first two scenarios are non-starters,
Yeah.
obviously.
The first two scenarios, as far as I'm concerned, my opinion, are non-starters.
I agree.
I would agree.
We could make it up somewhere else in other revenues, but
Yeah.
this line is specific.
Sure.
Just to
Jared and Chris.
clarify one thing that also changed this year in budgeting is that there's an authorized appropriation line in the budget, which is effectively a fund, you're kind of budgeting your fund balance for the year. And so that line is $733,000.
I don't know what that means.
Yeah, what is,
So typically, in the past, you guys had, the way that you budgeted, my understanding is that you kind of underestimated, underprojected your revenue, but you would come out with additional revenue, every year to cover in particular, to cover your I&I. In this case, what we started doing this year was we actually budgeted, put in a line item for that additional amount. So we're being transparent about how much revenue you expect to receive and what the spending would be.
So we could basically call that I&I. That's the.
I mean, that's up to you, how you want to characterize it, but, so if you're going off of Joe's sheet and you're seeing the 475 in that last scenario, I would say that you would add to that 733 minus the digester possibly the second digester cleaning?
Yeah, the cleaning is in our budget. It was moved into our expense side.
Yes, yeah.
Which was $375, I think, $385? So
$375.
$375, okay.
So it's pretty much a wash there.
So it's about half of that, you'd probably end up with, $350 or so, that's in that authorized appropriation from fund balance.
I'm still confused. So there's $700,000 in additional revenue besides the sewer use?
Besides all of your revenue,
Okay.
yeah.
And where's that coming from?
that's coming from the budgeted revenue that you put in there.
Like,
Is that I and I or
Yeah.
other fees?
Yeah,
or is that
it'll come
other
from I&I for one thing, it'll
Yeah.
come from interest from one, interest above what we budgeted for.
Yeah, all your
All the revenue
It's-
lines.
Those are probably the two
It's-
fees. Biggest things.
But is
Those are the
I&I
two
and
biggest.
interest,
Yeah.
that's-
Those are the two largest.
But is I and I broken up into a separate category? Or is it just under is it just under?
In the
category
accounting system and in the budgeting system, it's a separate line
revenue?
item.
Okay.
So if I could maybe simplify, and Joe, if you, I don't know, you can say if you agree with this or not. If you look at Joe's sheet, and I would say if you're assuming that you're gonna do the second digester cleaning this coming year, in my mind, you would add about $350,000 to that number. And that would be a truer representation of what your quote-unquote surplus would be.
Wait, so can you clarify what you just said, Joe? 'Cause or Jared, you said that I&I was a separate line, but then it was considered part of that additional revenue. So which is it? Just so I'm understanding.
I&I is recorded in the accounting system as a separate line, separate from the $7,669,000 we need.
But for all intents and purposes of this, it's just part of what that extra is, the surplus.
Yes.
Okay, so you're just being it's a
Yes.
technicality in the system that
Yes,
it's listed
yes.
separately, but, okay. I mean, it's like in the weeds in a way, it doesn't matter.
Do you
Yeah.
remember your
What did we go up last year as a percent? Was it like 3 or 4? Was it like, it was 4?
Come
It
on.
was 5%.
We went from 465 to 485. I need to get my calculator out. I thought it was 5%.
That's what I thought.
That's
And I
what
thought,
But,
we were kind of projecting is that, kind of looking at your waterfalls, is that 5% was almost at the minimum, so now we're gonna have to look at 6, 7, 8% going forward, because we really shouldn't be going below 5%, kind of when we were, just
Well-
general, when we were talking about last year.
the answer to that is yes. When we were talking last year, we were talking about building on it,
Correct.
and that's, I think, what you're referring to.
Correct.
Correct.
With the goal of trying to avoid a drastic,
15%
exactly.
increase for
Down the
1
line,
year and
yeah.
say,
Right.
let's just.
And I could also say I'm happy to report, whereas in January and February, when I looked at preliminary numbers, it looked like volume was down. Volume is not down. We're basically flat.
Okay.
Last year's volume was 1,589, I believe, and now this year's 1,551, so flat.
And, oh, sorry. And
That's
then
what I was concerned with.
percentage of revenue coming in, what would you say the sewer use fee would be a percentage? Like 80% of the revenue?
Not 90.
A
90?
5.5% increase, by the way.
5.5, okay.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Do we
Okay,
know-
so the total number is 8.7 million, the sewer is
Okay.
7.7,
And
so 8%.
yeah,
87%.
87%,
Yeah.
85.
And do we know how much debt we took on last year? I mean, it's kind
Yeah,
of
I don't
odd to
know.
look at this without looking at.
I can't tell you how much debt we took on, but I could tell, yeah, I probably can tell you, how about? Probably around 300,000, rough number, of additional debt. It was the capitalization of the, pump station, basically, at Sacred Heart, Easton Pump Station, let me call it
Now,
Easton.
is that debt service, that
That's-
300?
That's debt service.
So we took on,
It was basically zero. We had, the other number from the prior year was basically 30,000 from something that we had done 20 years earlier.
I'm thinking the nominal amount of debt, which I have a tough time thinking about, raising revenue without thinking about how much we're borrowing at the same time. I know that's the nuance of government budgeting, but I suspect we borrowed millions of dollars last year.
The budgeted amount for '24, for WPCA is $428,000.
Tell me
That's
about
your
that
debt, that's your debt service.
debt service,
That's
on
your
how
debt
much
service.
debt.
I'd have to look at it.
It's almost entirely, Jared, the Easton Pump Station, so it was 3,200,000 and 2,300,000, so about almost 5.5 million, rough number,
Okay.
Okay.
It's, we didn't have any other capital coming into this budget other than the pump station.
Yeah, you understand what I'm saying, that we're spending millions of dollars over here, but we're not really thinking about that as we're adjusting rates. We're just looking at debt service.
But if you're looking at the FY '24 budget and looking at, you know, whatever numbers are in there, the debt service is in there. Next year, it's obviously gonna go up, you know, as you guys are doing more projects and taking on more debt service, that's gonna go up. But, and, you know, I think that'll be a next year problem.
Right.
Not problem, but something that.
Next year,
Pay attention
opportunity
to.
to do it.
Pay attention to.
But we've been building, okay, now we have to introduce the other side of the equation, which I think is what you want. Our fund is at $15.3 million right now, less some POs and other things outstanding, netting down to 13 million.
Right.
Okay, at the end of the year, unaudited number, let me say that. We have talked about, as we build our fund, that's gonna be funding the capital. Jared has presented to the Board of, everybody, the Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, that in a number of years going out, without increasing and building into that fund additional money, we go bust, basically. So that's why we have to consider that as we build, as we look going forward. I think that's where your question was coming from.
Complete the picture.
But that was 5-ish years out, and that was assuming a $60 million or more plan upgrade, right? That's what made it go bust.
I think your number was 120 on the plant at the end of the day.
So your analysis was the last one that the
Oh,
board,
okay.
or that
So that it was
the
98.
Board of Finance looked at,
Then
so
it was
whatever
98.
you included in there. that's
$98
what it
million
was.
for the plant.
And I don't remember your start date of it, when you
Yeah,
had that.
it was out
for
in
start date.
2029
Okay.
for the first piece.
Yeah, it's an interesting,
Okay, so
dichotomy that we're talking about spending $100 million over here, and then, do we build up a $300,000 surplus over here?
Well, I think over the work that's going on, we're gonna validate that number a lot better than just a conceptual 100 million in 6 years type of thing. Hopefully it's less in the near term and then more pushed out further, which we can then prepare for better. So unfortunately, we don't have that for this year's rate discussion, but by next year's, we certainly will.
Do we know what the median, bill is? Does anyone know? Is that around $400?
It was 480 2 years ago. I think it was 5 1/4. That's the average. I'm sorry, not
Yeah.
the median. You're asking for the median, which is.
Median's probably a little less when you're
Yeah, it
falling
would
out
be,
Fairfield.
mathematically,
Yeah.
it would be.
So it's
So
maybe
say 500.
450.
I'm not sure that much less. Okay,
Well, you call it-
475, play
Okay,
the
so-
difference.
So if I'm a user in town, I'm paying $475, and I'm looking at a 8% increase, that's roughly $35. So I'm going from 475 to 510, which, as far as utilities go, tremendous value. Like 3 months of cable.
Maybe.
Excuse me, and you're certainly putting that up against I was gonna say a cesspool, a septic system, which would be 20 or 30,000 replacement, probably maintenance-wise is probably
It's
Three to-
more,
three
I
to-
have it.
You have,
Yeah.
you have 3,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, so, I mean, that would be a reasonable comparison to the plant.
Yeah.
Somebody on septic. I think, I mean, that's my opinion.
Thoughts around the table?
And I do have some other towns, we never completed the study
I-
because,
I just always go to the thought of what we do, we sit around here and say it's a great value, but for someone that $35 may be a big deal. How do we sort of
well,
take into account?
part of what we do is if your usage is 50 CCF or below, you have a minimum payment.
Yeah.
And that payment, we'll talk about it, but right now that payment's $150.
Mhm.
So you know, when Mark asked me, and the average, let's say, is 500 for argument's sake, I don't wanna say widowers and widows, will be paying probably on the low end.
Mhm.
The minimum is, which is, right now, 150, we have to talk about raising that,
Yeah.
and raise the rate because it skews everything.
Yeah.
So, we do have that in our thinking.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh.
Hey, Ron?
All right, well, I'll go out and say that I would support the 8.2% increase to 525.
I would as well.
So would I.
Okay. And, a minimum right now is 150, and there's 300 or 400 individuals as a minimum.
Yeah, I don't remember the number, 300, 400 is probably a close number, I didn't bring it with me, unfortunately.
So,
Did I?
you know, it's not a big revenue item,
Right.
it's just more of kind of what's fair in light of.
Right, but if
what
you take
others
that
are paying.
50 and you multiply it by 5.25 now, it's
Like 270.
Or you
Right.
go 150 times 8%, 162, increase
Right.
by 8%.
so it needs to go up, it's just a question of.
What do you want?
Does it match? Yeah.
Do you wanna match it at 5.25, or just take 150 times 8%?
Probably a net difference of a couple $1,000, so. Anyone have a strong opinion?
I'm okay at 162.50.
Isn't there a billing issue, we have to go nickels now?
That's on the, yeah,
On
that's
the
that's
CCF.
why the rate, you see on my piece of paper is
Yeah.
485, 490, 490,
So-
that's the way the nickel.
Why don't we say like 175?
Do we know,
Oh,
Or-
yeah, I don't know if it equates, it doesn't equate to the whole dollar number in there. This is a rate.
No, I'm saying for the minimum.
I'd support 175.
Oh.
One minimum.
I was supporting 162.50, it's six of one, half a dozen of the other.
An extra $2 a month.
Yeah. You want
But-
a nice round number, 175.
you know, again, who's paying that amount and
It's,
how will it?
it's the folks that aren't using
Right,
Yeah.
so,
single households,
Well,
just single person.
Well, it's a lot of people who are vacationing in Florida in the off-season.
Yeah, well, that's a
So,
hole in our
what about-
the way we develop this process.
just doing the 8.6,
Okay, so
or 8.2.
That's the
162.
Yeah.
162.
There we go. 13 at 400, so that's a difference of like five.
It just seems arbitrary to do 175 to me,
Yeah, then
I mean,
just
it's-
put 8%, or
because it's
8%.
the revenue generator, it's like insignificant.
162.50, okay?
So,
All right. Please.
as I'm not sure how to say it. We received information today that said it has to be a proposal, we can't vote on it, which is inconsistent with prior practice. We don't have Attorney Baldwin on the phone yet, so what I would like to do is make a motion to set the rate at 525 as versus a proposal for 525. I'm not sure it makes a difference if then Jim tells us that we have to go to the paper for 10 days. If we do it the way we've done in the past, we set it, and we go, and that's it. We've set it, we've noticed the
I'll tell you,
meeting.
he was very clear with me a couple hours ago.
Well, I'm gonna have to ask him for, I'm gonna have to ask him as a citation. Oh, Mr. Baldwin, Mr. DeVanzo here. Jim, you changed you made a comment about changing our process today. Hi, Jim, how are you?
Good, Joe, how are you?
Good, thank you. In the past, we've set our rate, we've noticed the meeting tonight, special meeting, we've changed it with a motion, and then that was it for the sewer rate in the past. Now, Mark tells me we're changing that to just make it a proposal, put it in the paper for 10 days, and then have another special meeting to make the motion to do it, which I think we might have a problem with our vendor and getting the bills out on time. So I just wanted to ask you, maybe, what's the citation? Do we have any leeway in the citation that we could interpret it?
No, by my reading, Joe. 7-255 of the Connecticut General Statutes applies. And past practice is all well and good, but and obviously it hasn't led to any problems. But I think that you need to do it in accordance with the statute.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree with you. I just didn't know if there was any wiggle room in the statute.
Well,
Okay, so-
apparently there's lots of wiggle room because it hasn't been a problem so far, has it? But that's not to suggest that that's the best practice to go forward with.
Exactly. So best practice, we set the rate tonight, we publish it this week, and then we meet in 10 calendar or business days to ratify.
10 calendar days.
Okay.
It has to be posted in the paper for 10 calendar days?
It has to be posted for 10 days in a publication circulated in town, which would be probably the Citizen or the Post.
And our town website doesn't count as a publication in town then? It's gotta be a.
Unfortunately not. The newspaper publishers thwarted any such efforts when that came before the legislature.
They're down to a few sources of revenue, so good for them.
Okay, so just so you know, Jared, if we can't get the timing right and the vendor
Yeah.
can't get the rate in.
We'll get it
have
done.
to-
We'll get it done.
We may have a
Okay.
problem getting the bills out on time.
Okay, so we've identified the problem.
I don't know. Until we get-
So there'll be a special meeting 10 days from tonight,
Tomorrow.
I gotta get it in the
Tomorrow.
paper tomorrow,
tomorrow, so 10
which
days.
it won't go in the paper tomorrow, it'll probably go in Friday. So
10 days from Friday.
I will let you know as soon as it goes in, and then we'll make the meeting from there.
Okay, so we have a consensus on, 8.2, 162.50, and then the last item is I&I. I'll put forward, I don't think we should increase I&I, we had a pretty hefty increase last year. Any thoughts or comments on that?
I agree on that.
Just so everybody remembers, on the residential single family, we raised it 25% last year. On the multi-unit buildings, one-bedroom studios, 36% increase last August. Two bedrooms, 15%, and then three-bedroom units, another 15% also. And that was a reaction probably to COVID and where prices were really skyrocketing on us. So I have the same feeling that our chair does, that I don't think we should increase the I&I.
I'll note that with your input, we modified the, kind of the I&I offset. The equation is new flows less what the existing flows are, and the existing flows are defined as the average over the 5 years preceding the pulling of the permit. So I suspect that will come up. And so I just wanna remind everyone that that's how we set that algorithm.
Thank you. I'd forgotten if that big a increase, but that's, I would tend to agree that we've got enough in 1 year.
Yep. Hi, come on in.
Come on.
So we're just wrapping up the 6:30.
Don't you want us to?
No, please.
It's a public meeting.
You get a good seat.
So, did we have to vote? Is there a motion on the table from Joe's, or it's just proposed?
No, so the act is going to be to publish it, and then we will get together in 10 days from Friday, I
Okay.
suspect. And act,
This one we don't have to publish, we haven't changed it.
No, I'm talking about the, rate increase before.
Yeah.
There's no motion, you don't have to, there's nothing on the table.
We've considered it, that's the point.
Okay, that's fine.
So now we're gonna post it, and then the motion will come
Okay,
next.
sorry,
okay.
now I.
No, it's an excellent question. I'm learning this real time as well. Okay,
It's technically,
any other comments?
sorry, this is Attorney Baldwin, it's technically a proposed increase for publication, right? And then for action at that special meeting that you're speaking about.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Sheila?
Thanks, Jim.
Yeah. So good to have you here. Okay.
Do I stop recording this one and then we start again?
I'm going to ask if there is a motion to close the 6:30 special
We have
meeting.
another agenda item,
What's that?
the change to policy, the INI policy. So we have a
Well,
third.
what's the proposed change? Oh, I thought it was the rate. Oh,
No,
INI rate.
no, there's
INI
opposed to
policy.
the policy wording.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion to delete in the definition of INI where a lateral is not available to connect. The policy's incomplete, the
Oh,
policy's
yeah.
inconsistent. So we need to change the
There you go.
definition to make it consistent. We ran into that with, one of the
I'll
applicants.
second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Definitely.
Unanimous.
Thanks, Joe.
Well done. You lost without you, Joe. Motion to close?
So-
Tom, second
Second.
Nancy, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
6:30 meetings closed for now, we'll resume in